Yo, what is going on, everybody? This is Tim Odell with Odell Complete Landscape. What we're going to be doing today is pouring out this concrete patio. As you can see, we have already started the pour, pumping the concrete out, 3,000 psi. We got our rod board all set up, screeding back the concrete. And by the way, this is part 2 of a 2-part series, so make sure you guys see the first part. The first part was all of the setup on this whole project, and this is going to be the whole pour and finish. So make sure you guys like, share, subscribe, comment any questions you may have on the project and how we pour out concrete patios. I'd love to help you guys out on any projects you guys are doing at the time. Anyways, let's get right to it and let's start pouring out some concrete. Here's a little tip and trick, guys, a little important step that you may forget on your step pours or just form pours, anything that the concrete goes a little deep in. You want to tap the side of the wood, make sure you knock out any air bubbles. Those air bubbles make the concrete a little weaker, and this will make sure that the concrete spreads nicely in that step right there. That's where we knock the side of the form. And then right here you can also see we're lifting up the rebar to make sure that it is lifted off the ground. We do not want the rebar sitting on the ground. Once the concrete gets under the rebar, it'll hold the rebar up. Now, as soon as we get done rodding all of the concrete, we're going to jump right over to the wooden bowl float. We like the wooden bowl float because the wooden bowl float really exposes any low spots in the concrete that may not have been rodded to perfection. That's why I always love to start with the wooden bowl float, and then I'll come back with either a fresno or a magnesium bowl float to really seal up the concrete, as long as I know that the concrete is nice and flat. I mean, if you can look closely, you can see there are a couple low spots right there. Actually, that's the low spot right there. He's about to go over it. I'm pointing it out as well. And here's Sam. He is dropping some of the concrete into that low spot, and then we're going to just bowl float that in, flatten it out, get it to perfection. Now, when it comes to working with your wooden bowl float, we like to do at least 2 to 3 passes, making sure that the concrete is as flat as it can get. It's really important to get it as flat as possible, because once you start sealing the concrete with fresnos or magnesiums, they just kind of go over the concrete, and they won't really flatten out the concrete. To some degree they will, but the wooden bowl float really drags the cream of the concrete on top. It brings it to the top of the surface and really drags it all around to make it more flatter. That's what I've noticed, at least as I've done worked with both. And then you can also see we have a guy on the edge of the patio with a 2x4 rodding out any excess concrete that may have been on the edge. Now that everything's nice and flat, now we're going over it with our little fresno. We're hitting it with the fresno, sealing up the concrete. As you can see, there doesn't look like there's any divots in the concrete. It's really nice and flat, and that's what we aim for once we're done bowl floating. You'll know if your concrete isn't completely flat when you start to seal, because there will be little dips in the concrete that won't get sealed. It'll look rough, kind of like that in the corner where you didn't hit with the fresno, but you would have gone over it, but would still be rough because it's a dip in the concrete. Now here's a very important part when you are pouring out your concrete: setting up control joints. Now control joints are the lines that go through the concrete to prevent cracking in your concrete. And what we're doing right here is we got a string line tied to the pole because actually on that house we have this patio already divided up. On the forms we have nails, and on the house we have marks. So what we're gonna do is since we can't reach out onto the concrete where we want to put the control joint, we tied it to that pole to reach out. He's gonna set his pole over to the mark that we have on the house, and then we're gonna be down over here, and we have a nail as our mark, and we're gonna snap that string line right on top of the concrete. It's gonna leave a mark, a nice straight line to cut our joiners in on. So that's what we're gonna do right now with all the areas that we marked out. We're gonna snap the string line on all the spots where it needs it to divide up this patio into perfectly even squares, to hopefully not let this concrete crack. Cracking on concrete is almost inevitable, but the control joints is what helps prevent the cracks. And then over time, once you watch enough videos on concrete, you'll kind of start to understand where concrete needs control joints. It's fairly common sense when you think about it. Pretty much any cracking points on concrete are like corners, and then you don't want like over 10 by 10 slabs normally, or 10 by 12. 10 by 12 is probably the biggest you'd want on squares. So you can see now we're breaking out our 6-foot cutter, or joint cutter, to start cutting all the joints. We have one guy going around on the edges. He's edging out the concrete right now, and one guy's cutting all the joints in. Once we get done cutting all the joints in, we're going to come back with our joiner to clean up the joints. And you can see we're still snapping lines into the concrete. This is the very long way we're going to be putting joints in. Right on the corner of these stair-step pattern forms. And this will cover the long way for the patio. You watch YouTube? This will be on YouTube.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. You can watch yourself in action. Movie star. So, as soon as we get done putting all of our joints in with the cutter, we're going to come back with a joiner. And a joiner is going to clean up these. It's going to clean up the control joints. Because when you first initially cut in with your joint cutter, it's just to spread and separate the aggregate in the concrete. After all of the control joints are jointed out, we're going to wait a little bit, say maybe 30 to 35 minutes, somewhere around along those lines. It always depends on every concrete pour, on the weather, and your mix. But I think we waited around that time to start the next pass. And what we did for the next pass was we used a funny float. And the funny float kind of drags and brings up the cream again to make it a little bit easier for the fresnos to finish the slabs. And that's what we're going to be doing right now. Funny floating these squares out, the whole patio, and then resealing with the fresno. Alright, so we're coming down to the end of the concrete patio pour. You can see we're starting the broom finish. This is actually a 100% nylon broom. The horsehair is more for, I would say, drier concrete. This concrete was still a little wet, so we broke up the nylon broom. What makes the horsehair good when it's drier is that you can put water on it and hold the water weight, so it'll press down on the concrete a little harder to get that broom finish. And the water will soften the top surface up a little bit. And these corners right here were the ones that were going off the fastest, because this is the area that was getting hit by the sun first, and it was the area that we poured out first. So that's where we're starting with this area. But you can see we're putting a nice light medium broom finish on this patio. Nothing too crazy, because it's just a backyard patio, not like a driveway. With the driveway, you might want to broom it a little rougher, a little sooner, but waited for the concrete to get a little bit more stiff before brooming. That's why we're waiting for the other sections to get a little more stiff before we broom those areas. Now you can see we had to actually go down the middle of the slab again, retrowel it all out, because it was just still too wet and it was just drying a little bit differently than the two ends of the patio, maybe due to water moisture content in the soil. But we just had to hit that slab again before brooming it. What's always nice too is if we have one guy out there on the slab doing the final pass on it as we are about to do the final broom finish. That way you get a really nice clean finish. And you can see we already took out the forms off the step back there, and then we're going to do a little hand brooming on that. We're starting to take out all the forms or all the stakes, just so that when we do head out, that the concrete has a chance to expand. But here it is. This is the final finished look. In my opinion, this concrete came out beautiful. The lines are nice and straight. The control joints are nicely placed. Broke up the slab nice and even. And it's going to be a nice usable space now for the homeowners. So I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If so, please leave us a like, share, subscribe. I would really appreciate any one of those. Leave feedback. Let me know if you guys I don't know, enjoy the music, or if I should change up the music. I don't know, just leave feedback. Let me know what you guys think about the videos, and I hope you guys enjoyed everything on the series, and stay tuned for more videos, because we will be posting weekly, or trying to. It's tough to work the jobs, film and edit everything, but you know, doing my best to keep up. So have a great one, guys, and stay tuned for more videos.